when you look at Senator Sanders' math, $25 trillion worth of revenue, a lot of it coming from areas that we could agree on. I think we all agree that the wealthy and corporations need to pay their fair share. I have a harder time agreeing with the idea of raising taxes on the middle class. He's proposed income over $29,000 being taxed to pay for health care plans. But on that, at least let's give credit where credit is due, because he's being honest about it.
I'm here in Plymouth, New Hampshire, where Pete Buttigieg just held a town hall. Now, Buttigieg actually talks a lot about Bernie Sanders, more so than I've seen other candidates talk about another candidate in this election cycle, putting aside Trump. And I thought that was fascinating. So I wanted to ask his supporters what they thought of Bernie Sanders because of this kind of budding rivalry when it comes to Iowa and now New Hampshire, where they're the top two in many polls.
I support Pete. My biggest issue with Bernie is not so much Bernie, but Bernie's supporters as being rigid. And from what we saw in the 2016 election, when he didn't get the nomination, his supporters then turned and then either didn't vote or they voted for Trump.
Statistically, more Hillary Clinton supporters from 2008 voted for McCain than Bernie supporters did for Trump. Does that change your view at all?
No.
I don't care for Bernie. For one thing, I feel he's too old, and it's nothing new with him. It's everything that we heard 4 years ago. He's been in the Senate, I think they said, for 37 years, and he's maybe passed about 17 bills that really never amounted to anything. So he really hasn't done that much. And like Pete said, he's been the mayor of a city, and he's really worked with them. He's worked to better his city. I mean, I worked in a woolen mill. And he came from a place that had automotive factories and things, and so he can relate.
He talked a lot about Bernie Sanders in this speech. I haven't really seen other candidates talk about other candidates in the same way. What is your take on Bernie and their kind of doubleheader here in Iowa and New Hampshire?
Sure, I'd love to actually answer that question because I was actually born in Burlington, Vermont when Bernie was mayor, and I loved Bernie for a long time. But unfortunately, I think Bernie speaks to a minority of the country, unfortunately. He has some great ideas, but it's so opposite to what many of Americans deal with, and Pete doesn't. Pete speaks about everybody, not just a portion of the country. I feel like Bernie has a little bit of corrosiveness around him that would repel maybe someone from a Republican or an independent or an undecided voter to not want to take a chance on him, whereas Pete, he's talking about everybody, and I think he means it.
So is it that Bernie's talking about more specific policy proposals as opposed to...
They seem more extreme. They seem more extreme. And it's talking to people who are, all in on one or two things versus let's look at how this affects everybody, not just, I don't want to say...
Well, healthcare and Green New Deal would affect everyone.
Right,
but.
Absolutely. But I think it's in it's almost not an angry tone, but a tone like, it's going to happen and we don't care about you kind of thing. Not that he says that, but that's how it feels. And I think with Pete, it's more like we're going to listen to everybody's ideas and we're going to move forward. It is something we have to attack, but we have to listen to everybody.
Well, I remember that Pete wrote an essay and won for the Profiles of Courage when he was behind a college, and it was about Bernie Sanders. So I feel like the two are, Pete's maybe part of the legacy of what Bernie paved the way, so I'm thankful that Bernie did that. I just think that the energy and the experience and the articulateness of Pete and the commitment, he's where it's at now.